We like to think of our civilization as the first to cover the planet in cities and highways, to surround the Earth with satellites, to store its memories in invisible clouds of data. But if you step back in time and look at the archaeological record, what we call history is astonishingly short. True urban civilization with writing and large-scale states appears only about 6,000 years ago in places like Sumer, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and ancient China. Everything from the first cuneiform tablet to the latest smartphone fits into a tiny slice of time at the end of a much older human story. For tens of thousands of years before that, people were already clever, already artistic, already spiritual. They painted the walls of caves, carved figurines, and followed the shifting herds and seasons. And somewhere in that long, largely unwritten prehistory, a series of cataclysms unfolded. Ice sheets melted, seas rose, lakes burst their natural dams, rivers changed course. To the people living through it, it might well have felt like the world itself was drowning. All around the planet, we find memories of a great flood. In the story of Noah's Ark in the Bible, in the earlier Mesopotamian tale of Utnapishtim, preserved in the Epic of Gilgamesh, in Hindu tradition, where the god Vishnu warns Manu of a deluge that will cover the earth. In the stories of many indigenous peoples from the Americas to the Pacific, who speak of waters rising, canoes lifting toward the mountaintops, and a few survivors rebuilding afterward. Separate cultures, separate continents, all preserving some version of the same terrifying image. The world swept by water, and an earlier order of things erased. Archaeology and geology do not confirm a single global flood covering every mountain in recent prehistory, but they do show something almost as dramatic. A world in violent transition at the end of the last ice age. Around 20,000 years ago, vast ice sheets locked up so much water that sea level was more than 100 meters lower than today. By about 6,000 years ago, most of that ice had melted, and the oceans had risen, on average, around 120 meters, nearly 400 feet. That slow, relentless rise would have drowned continental shelves, river valleys, and coastal plains on which untold generations of humans had lived. In northern Europe, this story is written in a lost landscape called Doggerland. Today, the North Sea separates Britain from the rest of Europe. But not so long ago, there was a wide, low-lying plain there, rich in game and plants, crisscrossed by rivers and marshes. Fishermen sometimes pull up the bones of mammoths, ancient tools, and other traces of a vanished world from the seafloor. As sea levels climbed, Doggerland shrank, became a chain of islands, and finally disappeared beneath the waves. No written records survive from its people. Whatever languages they spoke, whatever stories they told about the rising waters, are gone. Far away, on the other side of Eurasia, off the coast of Japan, other clues lie under the sea. Near the island of Yonaguni, divers have found what appear to be stepped terraces, sharp-edged platforms, and geometric structures at depths of around 20 to 30 meters. Some researchers describe these as submerged buildings or even a sunken city with flat surfaces, right angles, and what look like stairways. Others argue they are the result of natural fracturing in sandstone, later modified perhaps by humans in smaller ways. There is no consensus, but the mystery remains compelling. These features lie at depths that would have been dry land many thousands of years ago, when sea levels were lower. If people did shape them, they could represent remnants of a coastal culture flooded as the oceans rose. Submerged traces are not limited to Japan. Off the coasts of India, in the Gulf of Cambat, sonar surveys and diving operations have reported structures and artifacts on the seabed that some interpret as ancient human constructions, again in areas that would have been dry land before post-Ice Age sea level rise. The evidence is debated, and much more work is needed, but a pattern emerges. Wherever archaeologists look carefully at continental shelves, they often find signs that people lived where there is now only open water. Closer to the heartland of the oldest known civilizations, we find a different kind of flood story written not in legends but in mud. In southern Mesopotamia, layers of silt several meters thick appear in the middle of archaeological sequences at cities like Ur and Shuruppak. Below the silt, we see one way of life. Above it, another. These silt layers are clearly the work of catastrophic river floods, far beyond the ordinary yearly inundations of the Tigris and Euphrates. They would have wiped out villages, fields, and temples, and forced survivors to rebuild on higher, drier ground. When we read Mesopotamian texts like the Sumerian king list, we find an eerie parallel. The list describes a series of cities: Eridu, Bad Tibira, Larak, Sippar, Shuruppak, where kingship descended from heaven and ancient rulers reigned for impossibly long spans of time. Then it says simply, the flood swept over. After that, kingship begins anew in other cities, on a different footing. Myth and archaeology come together, a memory of earlier, semi-legendary civilizations prior to the flood, and physical evidence of floods that erased earlier layers of settlement. Farther west still, another legend haunts the imagination: the story of Atlantis. The Greek philosopher Plato, writing in the 4th century BCE, describes Atlantis as a powerful maritime civilization beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. According to his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, Atlantis possessed advanced knowledge and impressive architecture. After a period of arrogance and moral decline, it was destroyed in a single day and night of earthquakes and floods, sinking beneath the sea. Modern scholars generally see Plato's Atlantis as a philosophical allegory, perhaps loosely inspired by real events like the violent eruption of the volcano on the island of Thera, Santorini, around 1600 BCE, which devastated the nearby Minoan civilization and caused tsunamis across the eastern Mediterranean. Others look for Atlantis in the Atlantic Ocean, in the Caribbean, or in submerged structures worldwide. There is no archaeological proof of a single, globally influential high-tech civilization that matches Plato's tale in all details. Yet Atlantis remains a powerful symbol of a lost world drowned by the sea, echoing the theme we see again and again. A prior order, wiped out by water, leaving behind only fragments and stories. Against this background of rising seas and flood myths, the solid stones of certain ancient monuments seem to stand out of time. In Egypt, the pyramids of Giza rise from the desert as if they have always been there. Orthodoxy dates the Great Pyramid to around 2600 BCE, during the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom. We know the names of pharaohs associated with these monuments. We have quarry marks, worker graffiti, and surrounding tombs and settlements. Yet some researchers and popular writers speculate that the pyramids, or at least elements of the Giza plateau, such as the Sphinx and its enclosure, might encode knowledge from a much older civilization, perhaps even one that existed before some great flood. They point to patterns of erosion, possible astronomical alignments, and the sheer leap in complexity between earlier, smaller structures and the fully realized Giza pyramids. Most Egyptologists disagree with the idea of a forgotten, super-ancient pyramid-building culture, and the majority of evidence supports the Old Kingdom dates. However, the debate itself keeps alive a deeper question: just how much knowledge can survive floods, regime changes, and the grinding of time? Could later builders have inherited fragments, mathematical ideas, sacred proportions, cosmic symbolism, from much older, now largely invisible traditions? If we look eastward from Egypt into the highlands of southeastern Turkey, we find a site that forces us to push the origins of monumental architecture far deeper into the past. On a lonely hill called Göbekli Tepe, archaeologists have uncovered circles of massive T-shaped stone pillars, some over 5 meters tall and weighing many tons. The stones are carved in relief with animals: foxes, snakes, boars, cranes, vultures, and abstract symbols that suggest a complex symbolic language. Radiocarbon dating places the main construction phases between about 9600 and 8200 BCE. This means Göbekli Tepe is roughly twice as old as the pyramids and about 7,000 years older than Stonehenge. It predates pottery, metal tools, and writing in that region. For a long time, archaeologists believed that settled village life and agriculture came first, and only much later did people develop large ceremonial architecture. Göbekli Tepe flips that sequence. Here, hunter-gatherers or very early farmers gathered en masse to build something monumental, coordinated, and deeply symbolic. It is not a city in the later sense, but it is the heart of what we might reasonably call a Göbekli Tepe civilization. A network of communities sharing beliefs, rituals, and an extraordinary capacity for organized labor. What makes Göbekli Tepe even more mysterious is that its builders eventually buried it. Layer by layer, the great stone circles were filled in with rubble, deliberately entombed. It is as if that civilization closed a chapter on itself and walked away, leaving future ages to wonder. And once again, the timing is suggestive. Göbekli Tepe flourished in the immediate aftermath of the Younger Dryas, a period of sudden cooling and then rapid warming at the end of the last ice age, precisely when glaciers were retreating and seas and rivers were changing dramatically. Across the Near East, early Neolithic villages like Jericho in the Jordan Valley also speak of deep antiquity. Jericho's ancient tell contains remains of a settlement going back perhaps 10,000 years, including a massive stone tower and walls from the pre-pottery Neolithic. Along the Nile, pre-dynastic cultures such as the Badarian and Naqada peoples were already farming, trading, and building hierarchies thousands of years before the first recognizable pharaohs emerged. In the Indus region, early agricultural communities developed at sites like Mehrgarh from around 7000 BCE, laying foundations for the later urban Indus Valley civilization with its gridded streets and sophisticated drainage. These cultures could be seen as part of a broad family of Earth civilizations prior to the familiar Bronze Age empires, some of them brushing up against the great floods of rivers and the rising of seas. Many of them lived on floodplains and low-lying coasts, exactly the zones most at risk when climates shift. High above the rivers and seas, in the ice-chiseled landscapes of North America, we find more giant fingerprints of past deluges, the Missoula floods. As the last ice age waned, a glacial dam repeatedly blocked and then unleashed a massive lake in what is now Montana. Each time the dam failed, a wall of water hundreds of feet high tore across the Pacific Northwest at highway speeds, gouging out the channeled scablands and rearranging the land. To any humans witnessing even one of these floods, the event would have been apocalyptic. The memory of such colossal waters could echo in oral traditions for thousands of years. Taken together, all of this evidence, submerged coastal landscapes, underwater structures near places like Yonaguni, catastrophic flood layers in Mesopotamian cities, legends of Atlantis and other drowned lands, the incredible antiquity of Göbekli Tepe, the age of Jericho, pre-dynastic Egypt, and early Indus communities, paints a picture that is both humbling and unsettling. Our current civilization, in its written, urban form, may be only about 6 millennia old. But before our present chapter, other chapters were already written on this planet. Peoples who built enigmatic sanctuaries atop Turkish hills as ice sheets melted, who farmed the banks of the Nile and Indus as rivers rose and shifted, who may have carved or settled upon shores that are now tens of meters below the ocean's surface, who saw with their own eyes floods that seemed to swallow the world. We do not yet have proof of a single, global, technologically advanced civilization that preceded us, as some popular theories imagine. We do, however, have growing evidence that human social complexity, artistic vision, and architectural ambition are far older and more resilient than our history books once admitted. The stones of Göbekli Tepe, the worn steps of the pyramids, the half-visible terraces off Japan, the flood-sculpted plains of Mesopotamia and North America all whisper the same warning and the same possibility. Civilizations are temporary arrangements on a restless planet. They rise, organize, build, and believe that their monuments will stand forever. Then the climate shifts, the waters change, the ground moves, and what once seemed permanent becomes a layer in the archaeological record, or a half-remembered myth of a world before the flood. We, with our satellites and digital maps, can see sea levels rising again, glaciers melting, coastlines subtly redrawing themselves. Unlike our ancestors, we know the physics behind it. But in another 10,000 years, if some future people sift through our ruins and our stories, they may talk about us the way we talk about Atlantis, about the builders of Göbekli Tepe, about the half-submerged cultures of forgotten coasts. As one more civilization the Earth has known, brilliant for a moment, then swallowed by time and, perhaps, by water.